Hi, everyone. Thanks for considering joining our Pursuing Equity initiative. Our planning team here at IHI wanted to take the chance to introduce ourselves and give some of our perspectives on the questions for the video submissions. So I'll kick it off with an introduction. My name's Rebecca Brandis. I'm a director at IHI, and I'm based in Boston, Massachusetts. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm white, and I'm ethnically German and Greek. And I currently participate in a white racial justice affinity group. I'll pass it over to Dorian.
Thanks so much, Rebecca. My name is Dorian Burks. I'm an equity and culture lead at IHI, as well as an improvement advisor with Pursuing Equity. Excited to be joining this next year of Pursuing Equity as well. I use the pronouns he, him, his. Ethnically and racially, I am Black American and Swedish. I'm based in Los Angeles, California, and at IHI, I participate in a BIPOC affinity group. I'll pass it on to Shannon.
My name is Shannon Welch. I'm a senior director here at IHI. I'm based in Edmond, Oklahoma, and I use the pronouns she, her, hers. And I identify as Black American and with my ethnicity, primarily Nigerian. And I'm also a participant in the BIPOC Racial Justice Affinity Group.
And hi, everyone. I'm Nignon Lewis. I'm a vice president here at IHI. I'm based in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I use the she series pronouns, and I am Latinx and white, and I joined the BIPOC affinity group here at IHI.
Hi, everybody. My name is Hannah Cornwell. I'm an associate project manager on the Pursuing Equity group here at IHI. I'm based out of Boston, Massachusetts. I use she, her, hers pronouns. I am white, and ethnically I am French Canadian and British primarily, and I am part of the white affinity group. I will now pass it on to Shannon to answer some questions.
Great, thank you. So I am going to be answering the question of why does right now feel like the right time to join this effort? With what I've been able to see around the own internal equity journey that IHI has embarked upon for the past 10 plus years, coupled with the renewed energy and excitement across the country to do equity work, particularly after 2020 with the death of George Floyd and also COVID and the inequities that we saw there in death rates, that now is the time. Across the board, I've noticed that people are more ready to engage in deep conversations around racism and how that affects health outcomes. And I just feel like now is the right time to continue diving more deeply into this work and supporting health systems across the US to go deeper, to get into a routine of stratifying their data by race, ethnicity, and language, having the conversations within their teams, albeit uncomfortable, around racism and how that shows up in both how we do our work and what we do. And I'm excited to see what comes of this opportunity. Thanks, Anna.
So I'm now going to be answering the question of who would we be doing this work for and how do we define community? We are in a great position as the people running this project, where we get to do the work both for you as the healthcare delivery organizations who work on larger system levels that IHI usually works with, and for the patients, the people that you get to interact with on the day-to-day who are the ones experiencing these significant structural inequities. Healthcare delivery organizations are the connection between those larger system kind of changes that we at IHI are good at working with and the individual changes that we as individuals all really want to see come around. To follow that up, how do we define community, and specifically this community that we hope to build in the Pursuing Equity work? So community, I think as a group, we kind of define as a group of people who are brought together by a common experience and interest and engage in joint action in some way. And our community for this project involves you all, the people giving healthcare, who are brought together through the goal of creating a more equitable and radical healthcare environment for everyone. I'll pass to Nignon.
So I have the question about what is your role as a senior leader and how do you plan to be involved in this effort? And at IHI, as a vice president, I have a few different roles in supporting this team and this initiative. It sort of falls into three buckets. The first is to sponsor the team, sponsor the work. And that means I am involved in helping think about how are we getting results? What's our coaching model helping the teams? When we see operational or results-driven challenges that bubble up within the team, it might be bubbling up to me, and I might be thinking about how I might clear the path for the team to be successful in coaching you. And so that might be removing operational barriers. There's a strategic question that they need help on. All of that is part of sponsoring the work. And at IHI, it's also about supporting the professional development pathways of the people on this team. So for each of the people that introduce themselves, how does this work advance their careers and their learning journey as professionals? And they are constantly thinking about that as they deliver this work with and for you. Second is to interface with our funder. So we have the amazing opportunity that this initiative is fully funded by a funder, fully underwritten. And so I represent this work with the funder and their relationship. And then finally, the third bucket is championing the work. So representing this work externally and this initiative externally, and also helping IHI be bold and to provide cover for organizations like you to be bold in the field. So we have a very bold, ambitious CEO who provides cover for me to be bold, ambitious, which provides cover for this team to be bold and ambitious. That if we say you can name racism, it gives people the cover and the confidence that they can name racism in their communities and in their systems and their organizations. And so that is my job, is to really champion that work. I hope that each of the senior leaders that come to the table here think about what does it mean to sponsor the work? What does it mean to sponsor the champion the work? And so it's a great opportunity for me to strengthen my leadership by just being a part of this team.
So why are we committed to being in a more radical experience together with a focus on dismantling racism? So this is our third year or third iteration of pursuing equity with communities. And each year we've been focusing on going deeper and being more bold. Just as Nignan shared, how we are grateful to be able to be bold and lead in naming racism in many ways. We recognize that it can be easy sometimes to say, our data shows that we've got some disparities here, and let's just focus on reducing those disparities in some light touch way without kind of understanding the systemic racism that's behind that. And so one thing that we are continuously committed to at IHI is really understanding the systems and structures that create the outcomes we see today. And that racism in particular is a system and structure that's existed covertly in many of our systems, where many other isms have built upon that. And so that's why we start with a focus on racism, with an understanding and incorporation of a focus on other isms as well. And we're committed together to being in a radical experience as our IHI team in how we do our work, as well as the outcomes of doing the work. We recognize that just getting great outcomes together is wonderful, but the way we do the work, the systems that we set up and the structures that we set up can still replicate racism in different ways. And so we want to be continually focused on taking that radical approach, and we invite you to join us in doing so.
And one of the prompts that we are asking you to react to is the following definition of racism. So racism is a system of advantage and disadvantage based on race, grounded in the presumed superiority of the white race, where we see differential distribution of goods, services, and opportunities based on race. It operates at the individual, interpersonal, and institutional and structural levels. I personally really love this definition of racism. I think one thing that I really like about it is it not only calls out both the advantages and the disadvantages that the system kind of creates for people of different races, but it also very explicitly names that presumed superiority of white people. Because as a white person, it's a good continual reminder that, dismantling racism has everything to do with me and my racial group, and, the benefits that we're experiencing in our systems are often, at the expense of people of color. So I like the definition. I think it just really calls out that there is work for us white folks to do. And I like that it kind of calls out that responsibility. And I also really like that it calls out all 4 levels of racism, just to kind of show the different ways it operates, which really helps us identify when it's happening and be able to work to dismantle it in all the ways that it can show up.
And there's another question that we wanted to answer around how do your racial and social identities impact your understanding of health and public health? When I think about this as in my own identity, I'm both Latinx and white, but I'm very much white presenting. And I'm in a position of power at IHI. And so being very mindful of how that shows up in different spaces and how I think about the field of health and what does access mean? What does access mean when I step into the room and start speaking? I also am a child of medical bankruptcy and a mother who was Mexican American and continually experienced discrimination in the healthcare system to the point where it had intense impact socially in my life and where we existed on the poverty line. And so I'm bringing a personal experience to bear in the way that I am showing up in the work. And I want to be able to tap into the personal experiences that people bring to this work as a means of understanding what the system is doing and our view into the system, understanding what the problem and the opportunity is, and also co-designing the solution. What does that mean to bring our personal stories to this? Behind all of our identities, no matter what the social identity or the racial identity is, we have a story to bring to bear of how we've interacted in this system and how we can make it better. And so continually thinking about what does my identity look like in spaces? How does it impact the way I show up in the work and what I can do to help advance equity and anti-racism?
Thank you so much for listening and taking a chance to get to know our IHI team. We really look forward to watching your video. We hope you have fun creating it, and we know it'll be a really good way to get to know your team. Thank you so much.